Well, ladies, you two play two of Scott Pilgrim's love interests, but we have to say that these women, they're fairly formidable women in their own right. Now, Ellen, if I could come to you first of all, I mean, just let's talk a little bit about Knives and what she's like when we first meet her. I mean, she's clearly smitten with Scott Pilgrim, isn't she?
She is. Well, because she's never met anybody like him before, and, you know, he changes her life. He takes her on this new sort of adventure and this journey, and she gets to sort of meet all his friends and people who are not like the ones she's sort of used to in her sort of previous life, I like to call it, because she sort of goes from this sort of predictable everyday kind of routine, and then all that changes when she meets Scott, and she gets to kind of go to all these new places. She gets introduced to new music, and it's just a fun time for her, and so she really enjoys that. And it's just really fun at the beginning stages of Knives to kind of show that sort of genuine love of life.
Now, Mary Elizabeth, what is the appeal of your character, Ramona Flowers, for our hero, Scott? She is kind of out of his league, isn't she?
Well, she's, you know, I think the word enigmatic is most often used to describe Ramona, and mysterious and aloof. So I think he's kind of always just trying to grasp her, and she's always slipping away. And I think that that's kind of one of the things that attracts him most, is that he can never seem to just, you know, pin her down to one thing. And it sort of scares him, but attracts him at the same time and intimidates him. But she's just one of those girls that's sort of too cool for you, and that's what kind of makes you want her all the more.
And I think this has to be one of the best adolescent theme movies out there, or ever, in fact. For both of you, what sets it head and shoulders above other tales of teenage angst?
I think it just strikes a chord, you know, and playing on that young love and the truth of that, the truth of when you're not mature enough to move on from a relationship in a way that's healthy, and, you know, and kind of trying to figure out how to deal with a breakup and how to put somebody else before yourself. And this is kind of that age when you're starting to realize how to do that, you know, when you're kind of growing out of that teenage phase of being constantly selfish and just wanting for yourself all the time, and then getting old enough to realize that other people's feelings matter, you know, and that's kind of the arc that a lot of people are going through in this film, and I think that's just so true to what we all go through when we're that age.
Yeah, and I think that the film also doesn't really take sides. It doesn't say, you know, this person's right, this person's wrong, and so you can kind of sit back and make your own judgments, or kind of decide who you side with, or not even just who you side with, but just, you know, what you would do in those situations as well. You can kind of see the bigger picture, and see, you know, what happens during a breakup, like, you know, both sides, you know, whether or not you're the one breaking up with someone, or, you know, the one taking it, you know, everyone gets hurt. But, you know, what's also cool with this film is that it's taking this real story and putting it in this fantastical world where you can have fun too, you know, like take away all the seriousness and just enjoy yourselves, you know. And I think that at the end of the day too, this sort of real story kind of sneaks its way back into your heart, and you kind of can really sort of enjoy all aspects of it, which is cool.
Well, as we know, Scott has got to battle these 7 evil exes of Ramona. How could she have gone out with some of these individuals? They're bitter, twisted, and warped.
I know. Well, it's funny, you know, it goes all the way back to like the first guy she held hands with, you know, in grade school. So it's kind of endearing in that way, the sort of innocence of it. But really, it's just sort of a metaphor for, you know, these guys. She broke up with them in a way that, you know, was kind of heartless, and she just sort of said goodbye to them without really saying why. And they're bitter, and they're jealous, and they're upset about it. And so I think that they're only evil in the way that Scott perceives them to be evil, you know.
And finally, why should people of all ages go see Scott Pilgrim versus the World across the UK and Ireland?
Across the world, everyone should go see Scott Pilgrim, because it's refreshing, it's fun, it's got everything. It's comedy, action, drama, romance. Everyone, you can relate to every one of the characters, and it's just, it's refreshing, it's new, it's a new way of telling a story, I think, and it's just an exciting time. It's a ride, and I think that you'll want to go see it over and over and over again, and you'll want to see it with your friends, because it's an experience to watch this movie. You're not just sitting there and watching a story. You're really being part of it, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think it's so incredibly unique, and it's such fun filmmaking, and Edgar Wright is so passionate about this, and he puts so much into it. It's so much hard work went into this film, and I think that we need to support that. I think we need to support films that are so cared about down to the last detail. He and all of us and everyone involved with it cared so much about it to make it the best film we could possibly make it, and for the audience, and I think that if they check it out, they're gonna see that, and it's gonna be so worth it to see that up on the screen.
Mary Elizabeth, Ellen, thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you.